Hello and welcome to ElderInnerViews, a program by Creation Spirituality Communities in which we explore the lives and experiences of creation spirituality elders, women and men whose lives shine with the wisdom of the sage. On previous interviews, we have heard the perspective and wisdom from several esteemed leaders, people who have shaped our education, helped to define the movement, and carried it forward. Today, we are turning the microphones to each other, sharing our insights and spiritual truths that have come to us as we grow older. There must be a deep desire to explore the experience of aging as divine gift, because we have had over 20 people register for today's Wisdom Share. In order to make the most of our time together and to hear from every person, we will ask each of you to check in using the order listed on the chat format, which is on the right side of your screen on Zoom, which is our video format. We will then ask each person to take 1 minute to respond to the question, how is your aging going? This will be followed by general discussion for about 15 minutes. Then John or Penny will introduce the new question. My name is Gail Ransom, and I'm delighted to be your host for today's interview. I'm not as delighted to be your timekeeper, but I may be interrupting with a reminder of the time. So please forgive me if I catch you mid-thought. Conducting the interview today is Dr. Joan Robinson, a clinical psychologist with a second doctorate in ministry from UCS, who is the author of 9 books and numerous articles on the psychology, spirituality, and mysticism of the New Aging, and a frequent speaker at conscious aging conferences. Also, Dr. Penny Andrews. Penny is a board-certified hospital and hospice chaplain who has coordinated 3 Earth Charter Community Summits and guided the Mingai Center for Creation Spirituality for 15 years. Penny has been a presenter at the national, state, and local levels on aspects of spirituality and aging. Thank you, Penny and John.
So should we get started?
Yes.
Okay, you've all seen the questions. We're going to start with the first question, which is a really wide open-ended one, which is, how is your aging going? And we hope to hear from each of you maybe for a minute apiece so that we can make sure we go down the whole line. And once we get through the 1-minute sections, we'll just open it up for discussion. And then after we reach a 15-minute mark, we'll move on to the next question. So let's get started. I guess we start with Ardine. How is your aging going?
You know, I'll have to say I feel this is the gifted free time of my life. I love where I'm at. When I found out there were 2 things that come to me, I feel like
I'm going to try to mute everybody and then unmute the person who's talking. We have a lot of, so pardon me for a second while I do this. Okay. Okay, Ardine.
okay. As I said, this is really the gift of my life, I think, is this period in my life. 2 things that come to me that are such gifts is the first one is literally the freedom of not caring what other people think. I can't tell you how freeing that is to, and I'm not there all the time. My ego is a strong one and I get hung up in what are they thinking or that. But I'm moving toward really coming to my own authentic core. The second one is believing and knowing I don't have to push through life. I don't have to prove anything. I don't have to achieve anything. I don't have to produce anything. I can just be and be of value to myself and the world. So those are probably the 2 basic gifts. What letting go of just those 2 things has done for me is open up a well of creativity that I didn't have time for before. So now the creativity is blooming and I just finished my book and I'm feeling really excited about life.
Thank you.
I could keep going. Are you going to?
No, no. About
Okay, then I'm just going to go quickly and say, and this is my book, Listening.
Yay, promote
My
it.
Life Journey Through Fear to Trust. With that, I am looking forward to hearing from other people.
It's a great book, by the way.
Thank you, John.
So, Carol Kirby.
I am not able to say I don't feel I have to do anything. I feel myself to be an evolutionary elder, and the response and abilities, the abilities to respond to these critical times are urgent. They keep me up. They keep me going. I have many projects. So how's my aging going? It's like gardening. It's deepening right now. I don't have time for superficiality conversations. I'm kind of taken to embrace seclusion, to do a lot of writing, and to be open to what my writing is teaching me. How's my aging going? I kind of like saying, how's your work going? And my work is consciously evolving, and I'm really working at it. I tune in a couple times a week to a series called Becoming the New Species. Let's see, my writing is about evolutionary rituals. What kind of rituals does our world need that are in fact evolutionary, that aren't preserving beliefs and so on? And so my outer work and my inner work is very conscious about evolving and trying to embrace, grasp the potential of my life.
You reached the minute.
I'm finished then.
Well, we'll all come around to the second time and have a chance to respond to each other. So, Sylvia.
That's me.
Are you there, Sylvia?
It's my fault.
Oh, there she is. Nope, she's muted.
Muted.
I keep on unmuting you, and you keep on, Sylvia, let me unmute you, okay? She won't unmute.
Huh.
Oh, I see why. Never mind. Okay, there you go.
She's.
Maybe Sylvia needs to unmute at her end.
Maybe so.
Yes.
Sylvia, can you unmute yourself? We can't hear you. There you go.
Here. Do you
There
hear
you
me?
go. You're on now.
I tried almost hours to get on. So now am I back?
Yes.
Okay. Did you want me to sort of go through the questions you put
No,
out?
just the first question. How is your aging going? You have a minute to tell us. This is just an introductory question, but how's it going for you?
Well, health-wise and physically, it's going very well. I'm slowing down mentally, but I am active in. I found that I guess I can transition into what I'm doing. So I found, especially that the gathering in Asheville was a great help. It's wonderful, and it just confirmed me in two things that are important to me now, and that is living and sharing creation spirituality, especially in my Quaker community. And I'm finding a way through sacred chant and dance, introducing that. Over the past year, we've been doing chant and dance 4 times per year. And I would like to introduce more at a meeting for learning to explain what creation spirituality is and what I get from it.
Good.
So I am part of a climate stewards of Greater Annapolis, which is a very serious minded group that are trying to find ways to protect our earth. And we're concentrating especially on stopping fossil fuels and infrastructure from being built at all that will, like pipelines and the fracking and all that things that will keep that fossil fuels going. And there are a zillion other ways.
Okay. That's a great introduction. You sound like you're very busy.
I am quite busy.
Okay.
Good stuff, though.
It's
I've
all
been
good stuff.
called to. And then friends, taking care
Yes,
of
you've got to make
friends.
time for friends.
Yes, that's
Okay,
right.
the next two are Bill and Nancy and Tom are not here that I know of. Is that right?
Oh, okay.
So we'll have to skip over them, hoping that they will show up.
So we're down to Joe. Joe Beal, you're on.
Hello. So aging's going great here. I like to think of it as saging, and I feel like yes to everything that everybody has said. I, would just like to tack that on to what I'm saying. Yeah, I just find this to just be such a wonderful time, and I feel like I am doing my deepest work now, and it's this wonderful place of being able to bring all these experiences of so many decades all together into each moment. And today on solstice is the year anniversary of my grandpuppy coming into my life. and wow, what a teacher she is. What a teacher she is. I feel like the Buddha has just come back through this little puppy girl that just keeps me so in beginner mind, in the moment. Everything is fresh and new and exciting and wonderful, and unconditional love.
Wow. Thank you. That's wonderful. We have a great energy in this group. So who's next? Paul? Paul Irwin? Do we have him here?
Sure. I'd be glad to go.
Oh, go for it. Good to see you again.
To see you, John. I continue to read the books that I was given as a gift from the conference. Bill, am I audible?
Mm-hmm. You're on.
Almost audible. It might help if we put Carol on mute just while you're speaking. I'm going to do that, Carol, okay?
Okay.
Yeah.
Better.
My journey has finally settled down. I started off to continue to say the heroes, even though I was tired, and that didn't go well at all. I've given up being a hero now and have settled down at home at the Gaia farmhouse, watching my my younger partner enjoy life and create and write liturgies and figure out how to be in the church and all of that exciting stuff. Whereas I kind of have settled back, hopefully in a less and less ego-driven state, and am enjoying the environment. I love where we live, which is very much the country of halibut, rocks and trees, lakes. Cat, who is my little Buddha, and I love that about your puppy. And I do music. I've always wanted to be a musician, and I think I probably didn't have the hours of practice, but now I am, as an elder, learning the violin and learning. So I'm playing 2 or 3 times a month in various gigs on both instruments and having a whale of a time.
Wow.
It's a realized dream for me to be able to be in musical groups and actually Somebody called me a musician the other day. I thought that was a little misplaced, but it was
A new blossom on the tree of your life.
enjoying this time of life immensely. It's a gift. I love that word gift. It is a gift.
Thank you. So, David.
Yes. In
How
your
your
book,
life is going?
you talk about this is a transformation time, and it's transforming to the freedom of discovering who I am, living from who I am, versus what I was forced to do in the culture to survive, to maintain and go and have to do that adaptation. And then the joy of that is I get to express that with others. I used to think, the ego told me I had to do this, this, and this. But like this morning, I met a young lady who's moving to Dubai in August, and she retired from school teaching after 32 years. I could coach her from my experiences, just sharing who I am, what mine are, and you could see the relief as she got a better vision of what she was doing and moving through this tremendous time of change. I see this age as a tremendous opportunity for change to become a greater self.
Wonderful. Well, thank you. So, Penny, do you want to say something? I think the other people we were on the list are not here. Is that right?
Joan is here and Jann is here.
We have
okay.
two others here.
Oh, there. Okay, go.
And Joe, yeah.
Joan is here and Jann is here.
Okay. Well, Joan, come on. Let's hear what you have to say.
Well, this is my first participation, so I'm new to your group. It's good to be here. I like your energy. I took one of your courses, I think maybe 5 years ago. So honestly, it's taken me about 5 years to start seeing the good part of this journey. And it's pretty recent. I've just had a lot of personal changes, and I think the overlay of all the kind of changes that happen at this age on top of the personal stuff and the family health stuff, it was pretty chaotic. And but I guess the part that's kind of been there all along is appreciating that I have the time to both do inner work and outer work, that I can step back from the details of life and take that larger perspective. And I think that's really kind of guided my journey. But lots of questions and lots of bumps, both in the inner part and the outer part. So I'm still kind of resurfacing. And, kind of gardening and taking Tai Chi, doing quiet things. And
yeah, there are a lot of bumps. There are a lot of bumps.
I've moved quite a bit too, so I'm kind of settling back into my hometown as a retired person, which is different than sleeping here and going somewhere else. So yeah, just kind of feeling my way into my community. But I'm right near Washington, D.C., and I'm going to the Poor People's Campaign on Saturday. So there's just lots of possibilities. And I really do appreciate getting to know all of you and hearing about your journeys. Thank you.
Thank you for being here. So, Jann.
Well, I think it's a great time of life. I think in some ways I'm busier than I've ever been. That I'm on the board of Lindsay Art Association. I live in Central California, which is kind of a backwater compared with, near Washington, D.C. But I do participate in a women's huddle. If you remember, that came out of the Women's March in January. We meet every 2 weeks and write letters and lobby our politicians. Unfortunately, Devin Nunes is my congressman. I had surgery for heart valve replacement in January, but I feel great. It was not an open heart surgery. It was close. So that has been like kind of tiptoeing my way along and not knowing how it was going to go, and it's been Okay. I enjoy taking online courses tremendously. I'm in a writing group I'm writing a memoir for my, really not to publish, but for my children and grandchildren to know the kind of chaotic history of our time. I'm going to 2 women's retreats, one in July with women that I've been meeting, that I used to work with in the Ecumenical Institute, and we've been meeting for 25 years, one weekend in July, and it's a wonderful weekend. And then in September, I'm going with my niece to Scotland, to Ione, to a retreat, a 10-day retreat. So lots of fun things.
Beautiful.
And I do gourd art. I'll show you my
Wow.
great mother.
That's beautiful. Wow. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so Penny, would you like to chip in?
Well, one of my markers is that I've lived now 2.5 years past my mother's lifespan. And so I'm carving new generational land, if you will. And it's been about spaciousness. And that has taken me to a couple directions. I use taffy as an analogy a lot, or metaphor for my life, because I've been living into Brian Swim's version of the powers of the universe, and having the good fortune to teach it and to live it and let it work in my life. So some things aren't so personal. Politically, that works somewhat. It's hard. This is a hard time. On the other hand, I've also been delving very deeply into my DNA, and that's had me plumb all kinds of family history that has served my heart and also creates some new challenges. But I am now a lover and, cross my fingers, hopefully a believer in the miracle of stem cells, because on Monday I'm getting both my knees injected to see what will transpire from that. And those darn stem cells are like little miracles. And it'll be my own stem cell re-injected, but amped up to create this healing. And their capacity is to just go and heal where it's needed. And I keep thinking, what a great metaphor for elders. You know, what if that's who we could see ourselves and be?
Yeah, that is a lovely metaphor. I like that very much. How we heal ourselves with our own essence somehow.
Okay, Paul.
I think the Kirby channel is.
We gotta get the Kirby channel I'm looking for here.
So Gail.
Okay. All right. Okay. Well, I think when I watched my parents, I thought there was kind of like a draining, like old age was kind of like pulling the plug, you know, and all the information and drive and kind of just slowly drained out. Now I have a few places in my brain where that is actually happening, and but it makes room. The emptiness is very important, I think. Even in my 50s, I began to think about aging, and I look at it and think, well, things start to fall away. You know, our body starts to fall away. Different things in our lives start to fall away, but it's like scales falling. It's more like finding out who our core is, who my core is, who I really am, and that is a great gift to see I am less and less of the material world and more of the spiritual world, and that gives me. I'm excited about dying. I can wait, but I'm still excited about it. After all the spiritual work, to kind of actually go someplace else and be there. and I'm excited. In the meantime, I want to make sure I use the life that I have, well. And so I have been schooled by Matthew, and I do want to be purposeful with the rest of my life. I do want to make a difference. And I have people, some of them very close to me, want to know when I'm going to stop and, start going and having lunches and, I don't know, go shopping and kind of wheedle around till I get some debilitating illness, but I'm not going to do that. I like being alive, and I know I need to make a difference, and I'm so grateful that I have a chance to focus on that now. I'm shedding. Let's see. I guess that's it. I have hope in that human creativity that we're in a pickle right now, and I do like the young people, and I do like those who are still in the mix of it, and I'm sorry for them. It's so much work, and I wish that they'd have to be so intensely working all the time. But I do see what people are coming up with, and I still have hope. I don't believe we're going to go back, but I think we can go forward with, like the stem cell. Look at that. There's some other things you can do and fix, and they go, look at like that. It fixes something. So one of our dilemmas. So I have hope. I have hope in human creativity.
Excellent. So I guess I'm the only one left, so I'll do a check-in too. That question, how is my aging going, is really on my mind almost every day. I ask myself, am I spending my time wisely? We're in this final chapter, and it's so rich and so colorful and so alive. And I don't want to suddenly be 85 and feel like I just spent it, twiddling my thumbs and just spinning my wheels. And so that I ask myself things like, how much love am I pouring into the world? I love my grandchildren and my children and my wife and my family so much. And I cannot find a way to show them all the love that I have for them. They are just the most precious pieces of me, and I want to be able to give them a start or an encouragement or a validation or a ground of being that allows them to grow into the beautiful people they are. So I just am so moved by that part of it. And then I have a longing to understand what this aging business is all about. We've got these extra years, and what is aging asking of me? How I want so deeply to merge increasingly with the divine, because I just experience the world now more and more as itself, the divine being, and that I'm part of that divine being. And so I just feel that when I move into that space of feeling the being of my being, I'm so happy. I feel so much joy. That is like I don't know how to get it into the world, which takes me next into. I've been thinking a lot about sacred activism or mystical activism. How do we help this world that is in such hard times right now in so many ways, and how often when we take stands, do the other people just get more rigid in their stands against us? And is there another way to change the collective consciousness of our world, and how do we do that? And I have a feeling that as we go deeper into our own nature, into our own consciousness, we become one with all the consciousness, and from that place, maybe we can together make a world that is softer and kinder and gentler and more joyful and more inclusive. So anyway, these are things that I find myself wrestling with every day. I didn't time this, but I probably went on too long. So that's my check-in. So Penny, do you want to take the next question?
Yeah.
Oh, you're muted.
You're muted. Unmute up. You have to unmute yourself, Penny.
Okay. No, John, go ahead and do the questions.
Oh, okay. So this leads naturally from what Joan was saying into the hard parts of this time. And I think this is really important that we don't pretend that everything is joy and light, because aging is a huge challenge. We get kicked around a lot. So here's the question for you, and you can answer in any order you like, actually, but just try to keep to a couple minutes. What's been the hardest part for you, or the most worrisome part of this new time?
Um,
David.
I think the thing I find is it's the change process. In my prior life, I had routine, steady, everything happening. Everything's open, and I'm constantly going through the via positiva, the via negativa, the via creativa, and the via transfertiva. And that's a challenge. That's not fun and games all the time, especially when you're in the middle of a via negativa trying to let go, add something new, and deal with life at this age. So I process, which brings an element of chaos to everything.
Yeah. So are you talking about something specific?
Well, let's see. This morning, even just, I heard people talk today, just letting my day be what it is, rather than having to force structure my day, because this is what I should be doing. And to telling myself, I'm okay, I'm one with God, therefore, cut out the judgment and quit thinking I'm less am, and what I'm doing is what God needs me to be doing at this point, where Spirit needs me to be, and not say, well, I should be over here because I can do this, or I should be over there because I can do that.
Yeah, got it. Okay.
Relaxing into life,
yeah,
versus trying to mold it and form it.
Yeah.
So that's the change process. That's what I mean. And I've worked on that before, but a new piece of it comes up the last 2 days. So I got to work on it again and spend the morning meditating on it.
It's always here. Who else has a response to this? What's been hard in your life?
I could piggyback on with David. David, I could really piggyback on what you're saying. I've certainly, the hardest, but it's not terribly hard, is slowing down. Physically, just knowing my energy is 10 years ago. And that's hard for me because I've always been high energy. So all of a sudden I need a little bit more rest. I can't hike 10 miles anymore. I can only do 5 or 6. And so it's learning how to accept the limits of my physical body. But I think more for me is what David talked about, shifting from always trying to change the outer world to make it a better place, coming home to changing me so I can model how you live in divine essence to the world. I think that's really what I'm still out and I'm active, but I take that activity out with my divine core instead of my anger of changing everything. And I just would like to be able to shift more into that, because I can still get really angry about things that are happening. So it's learning how to continually be present to my own emotions.
Wonderful. Yes. Who's next?
I could talk about my 2 brothers, both have Alzheimer's. And that is so difficult for me. It's, I don't think it's as difficult to let go of somebody completely as it is to watch them fade away and not remember who I am or who their wife is. Those things are very difficult.
Sure.
And just being in this present time in the political situation is, I think, it's hard just to put up with it. So.
Yeah. Who wants to piggyback on any of that?
I'll try. Balance, I think, and I think the hardest thing is striving for the non-duality. And in doing that and seeking that seclusion, and I kind of block out demonization, even in politics. Listen to very little news, very selective. Read the headlines and then go where the energy takes me. Also a balance in our family life, trying to stay in the now. And I'm enjoying John's book on heaven this week. And so be here now. And it's easier to find heaven on earth in the summer, I found.
Yes.
Yes.
This is 110.
Oh, to a point.
And that's because it's so much easier to come home to our senses.
Yes. Yeah. You awaken the senses in the summer and spring and summer. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, but that balance of being in the now and not worrying about the future for myself and my husband and whether and when we should be moving from this place, you know, just to get ready to be ill and old and old.
Yeah. When does that happen?
And anyway, balance. That's my being in the now. That's hard.
Okay. Someone else? Anybody else have a difficult thing that they've discovered about aging that's been particularly hard?
Unmute yourself, Paul.
Well, I think Paul needs to be unmuted.
Okay.
Just a sec.
There you go.
Can you hear me now?
Yes, go for it.
I'm a very active person and also have a heart condition. So it's been very challenging for me to find myself without being able to do projects and getting things done have been part of who I am all my life. So learning to be a little more of a contemplative and happy in my books and my music and not being able to do all the chores around the house like a young man, it just has been hard. I feel a sense of loss about that still, even though my brain tells me that's silly and pretty well, but no, I'd like to do it all still. So this is an ongoing work in progress for me.
It's a continuous surrender.
Yes, it is. Good word, John.
So, and let's go on to the next then. What's been the most surprising part of this new time for you that maybe your parents never knew about or that perhaps you never expected?
Well, I think I will piggyback on what Gail said at the beginning. If my parents had been models of aging, I would just be sitting doing nothing right now. Mm-hmm. So I think for me, the surprise has been the joy that this time of life has brought me and the sense of fullness and wholeness. And I worked my entire life and I thought for a long time, once I retired, what? Well, once I quit my work, hello, here came University of Creation Spirituality. And that changed my entire life. So I graduated from there in 2001 and I have been growing and evolving ever since. And I give most of my thank yous to UCF for that. So my surprise is how joyful this time of life is.
The joy and the growth.
Yeah, and I'm still growing and evolving. I don't know who the hell I'm going to be a year from now.
You're going to be a brand new person. Yeah.
So, yeah.
Who else has a surprise?
Well, my surprise is how this young person I am is right there, every bit as strong as it ever was. Mm-hmm. And you know, I never had that sense about my parents or my grandmother, who I was very close with. The one thing she did that was a little like that is she was German, from Germany, and she would do the tango with me as an 8-year-old. And it was nothing like any other interaction in the entire family ever. But that was my clue that perhaps she had that young person still within her as well.
Oh, that's wonderful. Yeah, the young soul comes alive at this time, playing on the rug with your grandchildren, just brings out another kid. Jann, you're up.
Oh, I was just thinking about I'm learning to stay in the present moment because I can't remember anything else.
You see, that's one of the secrets of aging, is that everything you can't remember frees you from all the burden of that memory.
That's right.
Okay. Anybody else have a surprise they want to share?
I have.
Yeah.
I've been surprised to realize how unimportant my beliefs and what I think and my opinions are. That they really are digital blobs, and they've come and they've gone, and they don't matter. So
Yeah.
I'm going silly sometimes. You know, I have never been allowed to be silly, and that's the moment. Let's live it.
Let's live it. Let's live it in a silly way. Yeah. Well, so what about the spiritual nature of aging? What has that been to you? How has that come alive inside of you? We've touched on it in many different ways so far, but more directly.
I'd like to tackle this one.
Go ahead, Carol.
My spiritual journey has become an evolutionary journey. Uh-huh. And seeing myself and the time that is now and the time that's ahead, the past, even politics, seeing everything, and the environment has been demanding my attention, seeing everything in the evolutionary story as part of the evolutionary story. So seeing that connection, that connectivity that is ongoing, that is spiraling, as one, understanding it more deeply because of the new cosmology and the powers of the universe, understanding those powers as blessings, as gifts in and through us. That's well, it brings me to awe, wonder, and silence.
No, the idea that spiritual growth is also actually an evolution of yourself into a new and different kind of person, into a more awakened person. That's really very exciting. That's hopeful for all of us. That's hopeful about this stage of life as something that we can give and give back. Thank you. Yes.
Sam Keen taught a class at Wisdom, and he talked about the 5 stages of, how you can break things up. And, when you get to retirement, he says you can become the outlaw, because before you had to blend with society and merge with society. Now you don't. If I want to wear a purple shirt and pink pants, well, who's going to stop me? Mm-hmm. And then he says after a while, as you get to discover who you are in the outlaw, you move to the spiritual side. And you can look back and you see all this as just jesting and josting, and you see the connection to God. And I think that's what I'm sensing, is that I moved through in the outlaw stage, but I'm coming to this very stage where I'm understanding what it means. And because I've been the outlaw, I can start to live it. Uh-huh. I don't have to compromise it with anything in my life. I can truly live who God created me to be.
That's such freedom.
Yeah.
Sylvia, Joan, Joe, what are you guys thinking?
Well, I was thinking that as I grow older, I have a deeper desire to be more accepting of everyone, uh-huh, and to be generally more broad-minded.
Good.
I guess what I would contribute is that I'm still exploring all that, of course, and I think my relationships are becoming richer, but also my time with myself and my time in nature is also becoming richer. Just exploring, I'm still kind of in a process of discerning how much connection time with other people and who, beyond people I'm close to, I guess narrowing it down to people I'm close to. But also for finding time to hear from other species. I had a gift of being part of a webinar called The Voices of Gaia, and was hearing the messages from other beings through these communicators, animal communicators, communicating much love and our species, so much wisdom, and not all this fear about climate change. Generally, they just say, "Oh well, this Earth does change," so they're not in the place that we are. So it just feels like a lot of expansion from that avenue as well. Thank you.
Yeah, it reminds me of Barry's, we're not a collection of objects, we're a communion of subjects. Yeah, that every being has a voice and a soul and a gift and something to contribute, and we aren't listening very well.
Mm-hmm.
Others, what is your spirituality in this phase? How has it changed?
I was thinking as you asked that and as I read it, at this stage in my life, I feel like my whole life is my spiritual life. I feel like I am every day trying to be aware of and pay attention to when I get into dualistic thinking, when my ego takes over and I get into all these head games with myself or others. So for me, it's about coming home, being present to the moment. Nature is probably my church. That's the place I can go and feel at home with and one with all. But I feel like my whole life is learning how to be present to what is right now, and to be connected to everything, which is spiritual life in my eyes.
Joe, you're nodding in agreement. What are you thinking?
Yeah, I'm just so totally resonant with what you're saying, and I'm also thinking that it's like this has been really present to me my whole life, and so many of the questions, I feel like, yeah, I've been doing this my whole life, and now it's just all again coming together so deeply and so interconnectedly.
This is the magic of this time, isn't it?
It
all the strands of your life can weave themselves again, and
yeah, and it's like it's kind of like that, when they talk about the astronauts, and that view and that 30,000 mile view, whatever it is they say about that, it's like living that, right?
Yes.
That you are just in such a place of just seeing it, and it all just coming together so much.
So no boundaries, no separations, just the oneness of our being. Gail, you look like you're on.
Yeah, that reminded me, Joe, about I thought that started to come to me was I said I feel like I have more and more of a God's eye view of things. Like when you start, we're all, when we're little babies, we're interested in the bugs, all the tiny little things, and then it gets bigger. I think through our arc of life, which is I thought it was an arc. Now I think it's more like a crescendo. Spiritual crescendo just gets wider and wider. That as we get larger, we step farther back and farther back. And I do take a large, what I call God's eye view of things. So I see I'm much more aware of patterns, and I'm aware of movement, and also through time, which gives me a little bit of calm about Earth, because Earth has gone through changes before, and this may not be easy for us to change, but Earth will change and still have life, I believe. And I watch all sorts of patterns, big patterns now, and see them as expression of revelation of God's self.
Thank you. Penny.
To that, I would add, I've always liked this. Zalman Schachter Shalomi's way of verbalizing this is that this is the stage of life where we get to see what the masterpiece was all about.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. Wow. Yeah, the painting's almost complete, and now you look back and you say, oh my gosh, what have I created here? And it's all beautiful, even the mistakes. It's all beautiful and precious and sacred and timeless. And now we see it from a perspective that allows us to understand the struggles of younger people so much more easily without having to lecture or explain or fix them in any way. We just hold them because they're living what we live, and now we understand.
Mm-hmm. And the importance of them doing it themselves.
They got to do it themselves. We all did. You know, you can't convince somebody at 20 what you know at 80. It's just a different time.
My daughters tell me that all the time.
So
meditation is very important to me. It's, it's like I travel to the edge of the cosmos, and then I travel to the center of my heart, and it's just a huge, huge existence, and it puts my little life in perspective.
Well, that brings up a good point that it relates to the spirituality. What are the non-ordinary experiences we're having now in this time of life that capture that?
I feel like I'm on psychedelics all the time.
I do too, actually.
I feel like I live in non-ordinary reality on psychedelics all the time.
Yeah.
The greatest thing just to be able to do it naturally and not have any, side effects or after effects or anything.
Well, yes to bliss.
Yes to bliss.
Yes to bliss. And the summer flowers and the lakes, just the landscapes itself, and the vibrancy of life. Absolutely, those are high, extraordinary experiences. And sometimes people, or the way they're coming together, or when somebody phrases a certain phrase, that suddenly a part of your world opens. Mm-hmm. Lots of times of bliss. But the other thing that I think for me is an extraordinary experience of this time is integrity. I'm almost embarrassed to say it. Integrity. I don't feel that I've ever been able to live with such integrity as I am at this time. Mm-hmm. Such acceptance and celebration of my potential and myself.
Do others had that experience?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay.
Things happen.
I think for me the spaciousness is huge. That the time that would have been committed to a workplace and somebody else's need for me to think in a certain direction is gone. And so it's open.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I have a similar, I think we got an echo going again. I have a similar
I'm going to mute everybody.
I think it might be the Kirby line again. Are we?
Oh. So now, if you want to unmute yourselves to speak, can you do it yourselves now? I got everybody muted because we got that funny little.
Yeah. Okay. Now I should be on. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So I like what you're all saying in the sense that my whole consciousness seems to be different than it used to be. I walk on the road down to the spit on the island that we live on, and I'll stop many times, and I feel as if the trees know I'm there, and I know them, and they know me, and I know they know me, and I know that they are glad to see me and grateful that I have stopped long enough to commune with them, along with the birds and the ivy and the air. And it's just the sense that it's all alive, and it's all it is all radiant with a kind of a consciousness that is all okay. There's nothing that needs fixing, and it's like, I'm so grateful to be breathing right now. Whereas when my work life, I always had the next client and the next thing and the next report and the next, and there was never time for this, like Penny says, this spaciousness of consciousness that allows me to disappear. I don't even exist in those moments. There's just thisness of it all. And I think there's something, and it happens so much in nature, I think there's something just profoundly healing in just not existing except in the natural world where you're never lost and you're never forgotten. And it's like you come out of that saying, the world is all right. I'm all right. So who else? Who else is, why don't you unmute us and see where we are with other people? Okay, so we'll move into the next question then.
Yeah.
What do you hope to do or achieve in this chapter of your life? I mean, so you've got 10 years, 15 years, you know, and it's laying out ahead of you. It's alive with presence. What are you hoping for? What are you looking for?
Well,
Gail, you're on mute.
So I'm reminded of something where I really wanted to finish getting my work done so that I could finally write some music, and well, I write the music, but, you know, record it and get a CD, you know, do that thing and then sell it and become famous, have people have me give
Well, of course.
And I just never got around to it because I was busy living my life instead. And now I understand that my work is to voice the song that started at the beginning of the universe. You know, they talk about it, Buddhists talk about it, the Om, but the sound, if there's a big bang, bang, then there's a sound, okay? There's that sound and it comes out, and some of that sound has become our spiritual songs. And I feel like my job in my lifetime is to voice that sound so that it can be voiced again by the next generation. So that it has to be, somebody has to sing it. Somebody has to keep it going. And it's really changed my sense of what I thought was my primary gift, may surprise you all, which was songwriting and singing.
Ah, you'll have to present this to us down the road.
I'm getting my CD copy this summer.
Good.
I don't have the CD. I know. We're recording in Pittsburgh, but it's a whole other thing we're doing.
Okay. So who else has been thinking about this time of life? Joe.
Can I just say, I'm so sorry. I love this, and I have to go.
Okay. Well, thank you for being here.
Bye, Joe.
Bye, Joe.
Thank you so much. Love.
Love.
Love,
So,
love,
Dan,
love.
did you have something? This time of life, who wants to comment on that?
You know, it's gotten down to just being and living in the moment and expressing from the moment instead of the planning. So it's just really being the expression of God and saying, what am I supposed to do now? Let me listen to myself. Oh, yeah. And that's what brings me satisfaction and joy.
Yeah.
So that's simple.
It is very simple. We make it so complicated, don't we?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I would piggyback again on what David said. When I thought about this question, it was like, I don't have goals anymore. I don't need to go out and write a second book. My hope now is to develop qualities to live by. And I think the quality that I want the most is to be at peace with all that there is, to live in peace with myself and the world, and then to wait for Spirit's whispers and follow that. To quit trying to decide what I think I need to do and let Spirit guide me. She has never failed me. I just have a hard time listening once in a while. So I think that's my hope for my future, is to listen more and more to Spirit.
More and more deeply, yeah. Who else?
So, am I
Yes,
on?
Sylvia, come on.
Okay. The hopes for my final chapter. My hope is really that my life will speak to a few of my nieces and nephew and maybe be a light on their path, or a few other young.
You're breaking up a little bit.
I'm finished.
Okay. Maybe you were breaking up. Yeah. Okay. You know, I can piggyback on that too. I one of the things that's important to me is to somehow be for my children and grandchildren a model somehow of positive aging, of loving aging, of the willingness to surrender into whatever has to happen, with gratitude and calmness and serenity and acceptance, because it's the passage, it's the way it's going to be. So that's one of the goals. I don't know if it's a goal, but it is a goal. I mean, I just want to be able to do this well in a loving way.
I actually have projects.
Yeah, okay, go for it, Jan.
Well, I remember Mike Mansfield at our graduation said he wanted to leave the campsite cleaner than he found it. And I have had so much to deal with from my mother's and mother-in-law's picture albums. It's like, are they precious? Are they throwaway? Does anybody know who they are? And so I've been going through dozens of old picture albums trying to sort them. Did I send someone UCS pictures that I was supposed to? I had some great pictures of 2001. So if you want them, let me know.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Was it you I was supposed to send them to, Gail? It's my memory again.
You can send them to me. Yeah. Yeah, I'll put them in the, yes.
Okay. Email me your address.
Carol, you look like you're about to say something.
It's part of that balance, and so part of the this time is discovering myself as an elder in the family. And I'm young to be the elder in the family, not 70, and I'm the eldest that's left. So taking that role of aunt very seriously, holding it like very precious. And so I really commit to and enjoy being the aunt, great aunt, and so on. So that's part of my life work.
Yeah.
But the other part is, I've thought that it was taking what I've learned from so much, including the church as clergy and then as the Gaia Center, and synthesizing that into a book. And maybe it's just what writing the book has to teach me. I'm open to that. I'm not going to abandon the idea of it ever being finished or published, but I'm open to the fact that maybe it's even that, and that would be enough.
Mm-hmm. That really is enough. It's really enough. Joan, you look like you're thinking. What are you thinking about?
I'm just in more of an exploratory. I feel like I'm really in the beginning of stages of looking ahead.
Okay.
I'm kind of completing with the past, and I guess the whole looking ahead part is. I know I have a special feeling for young people, and I have a kind of a question I live with a lot about how to support them. They're working so hard, and also the fact that I'm fairly quiet, how to really kind of come forward in a way that's authentic and helpful, whether that's my path or not. I guess that's a question that I'm looking at. Thank you.
Lovely. Well, so one more very basic question, and then we'll turn it over for you to maybe come up with some questions too. But what role does the reality of death play in this time for you?
I don't have to hesitate. It's big time for me. I live it as maybe this is the last summer we're at this location. Every day is poignant. Everything I see is a poignant experience. Every morning waking up with my partner is poignant. That's big. It's a guest that makes life rich.
Who else? Thank you.
I'm in the process of planning a reunion of coworkers when we worked in mental health together 40-something years ago. And it was an amazing group of people who went on to do amazing things. And I'm young enough that death is still a bit of a, oh yeah, that's right, there's that. But 3 of the invitees are widows this time. And it's a brand new thing. And we just lost one of our coworkers. So, and my husband's 4 years younger, and he's a hospital chaplain in trauma. So he's surrounded by death. But he, as a younger person, is just coming into the, when it really hits, when it really goes down. Mm-hmm. And I think we were both a little, despite our losses along the way, the personal side of it, the taking on the poignancy of it, we're still walking into it with a bit of surprise, obviously knowing, we don't live forever, but there's still, when it's someone I've known and been close to and the years have separated us, and it's like, oh, I wish I'd talked to that person one more time. Yeah. I mean, that's still coming into my awareness.
Thank you.
I took care of my mother for the last 10 years of her life, and she lived to be 3 months shy of 100. And always had a very young spirit. But since I had my heart surgery, it's like, I'm not gonna make it as long as my mother. My heart's tired. So it has been, I felt like it was kind of unbelievable that I would plan a trip to Scotland in the late fall. At my age, I'm 81, and have to ride a choppy ferry out to an island. But it's kind of like I'm just, if I die on the trip, that'll be a great place to die. It's almost like that every day, whatever I'm doing. So.
You do live with the reality that death could happen any day.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, yeah.
I find that the mystery of having this self, this worldly self, and this body and living in this body becomes more and more of a divine mystery and gift to me. So I feel more and more my spiritual self being more real, and my body being almost a happenstance, and I'm just fascinated that I'm alive now. It's possible I've been alive before. I'm fascinated by it. I have spoken with people who have passed on, and that is edifying for me. And my ex-husband said, over here, he says, it's all love. That's what he told my daughter through a medium when she really had to talk to him. And so wow. And he sat on my bed the other day. He was just there, sitting there. And so to me, and then you see the body, but you don't see the body, but you know it's him. And so being that kind of body is fascinating to me. Yeah. What that's going to feel like.
Good.
Well, I think I stand on a fence with death. I haven't fallen on one side or the other yet, but I have a group of friends, and we have over the past 10 years shared everything about death, our fears, how we want to die, how we want, what we want to have happen. We're all each other's health advocates. And so we've done all of that. We've been parts of death cafes and talking about all the ways to prepare family and yourself. And so that's done, and that's an easy conversation that our parents never knew how to have. Mm-hmm. The fence is, I'm with Gail and absolutely excited about the other side. I know there's another side. I just don't know what it is, and I'm really excited about what it is. but I'm not excited about getting there. It's like that's way off in the future, and it's really not way off in the future anymore. So I think my sin sitting is doing all the tangible stuff, being excited about the unknowable, but not being excited about how that's going to happen.
Yeah, dying is a fine. No, being dead is fine, but dying
is a real scary thing. Yeah, and I don't want it to be like we saw so many of our parents go.
Yeah.
They just go on and on and on, and we're still seeing people go that way. So I'm glad I live in a state that has death with dignity. Whether I'd use it or not, I don't know, but at least I have that option.
Joan, you were about to say something.
Yeah, I mostly don't think about it. And I think partly I'm young and I'm 72, but I'm in good health, have good genes. Also, I'm an older mom. My son is 26. So I could have been his grandmother, but I'm his mother. And he's had some significant health issues this year. So I've really been a mother, actively mothering him. And there is no way I am ready to go because he really needs me, actually.
Mm-hmm.
And I guess it's kind of weird because I moved to a place where it was walkable, so I knew I could walk to my food store in case I couldn't drive anymore. And then it came to me, it's going to be about 15 or 20 years before I have to deal with that. This was ahead of the game. I can still go live out in the country if I want.
Mm-hmm.
So I do think about it, but it feels like it's too early to really think about it.
Mm-hmm. Anybody else?
Live in Sun City West, or did for many years. We're now in California, and went through well over a dozen deaths in the 16 years we were there as seniors. And watching most of these people go through a process that at the very end they became very calm and accepting of it. I don't think I saw anybody panicking, and that was the aging process. And it took 4 to 6 months from the major illness that created it to when they finally passed. And so I think it's given me a calmness, but at the same thing, I've never had anything trigger me to bring me into the reality of it.
Mm-hmm.
So there's kind of an intellectual knowledge, there's my creation spirituality knowledge, there's my experiences in a retirement community, but I haven't come to experience it like, oh my God, tomorrow I could die. I'm still in that denial or just living from that. And if I die tomorrow, I will, I guess, but can't do anything about it anyhow, right? So that's my thoughts.
Okay.
Well, in Carol's word, using poignant is a lovely way to frame it, because it is really poignant. And it reminds me of the Buddhist prayer, death is my teacher, always on my shoulder. Telling me how to live.
Mm-hmm. Reminding you to live. Yeah.
Yeah. I had a question for Penny about death. And when you start to see everything through the evolutionary story and through an evolution of consciousness, and that consciousness is what goes on. Consciousness is what comes in, and consciousness is what goes on. And so that whole gift of the power of synergy, and death plays this lovely role that death facilitates the next another piece of life, whether it's what the prey to the predator, or whether it's the person dying into another life that facilitates the next time. I'd be interested to hear what, Penny, you've done with your work on powers around death, if anything.
Well, I know Michael Dowd has a big section in his Great Story website about death, and I haven't studied it, but I speak at the Free Thought Congregation quarterly, and one one of my topics, and I don't know how this listener slid into it, but he said, well, what do you think happens after death? And the words that came out of my mouth was, the universe recycles everything.
Yeah.
And so I trust in that completely. And I also have great attachment to the senses and to the life I love, and, you know, wanting to see more stories and how they evolve, and, you know, what happens after Donald Trump. I mean, so I'm not that attachment piece is very much still part of my story. So I haven't, you know, other than to trust the universe on what's next, I don't have more words for that. Great question.
Raymond Moody's books, he taught a class at Wisdom, the Evolution, and reading his stuff helps a lot in that area, because there's a common factors that happen in all these near-death experiences. So,
Who was the author? Who was your teacher, David?
Raymond Moody, R-A-Y-M-O-N-D, Moody, M-O-O-D-Y.
Thank you.
And he coined the word near-death experiences.
Okay.
And
So-
he studied this, yeah.
With the time we have left, then, what have you learned? I mean, what has come out of this for you in this discussion? What are you leaving with? How do you feel? Yes.
Thank you for affirming how I feel, because sometimes in living in the retirement area, everybody was revolved around golf, and I didn't. And so it's nice to hear other people sharing the experience of aging, the struggles, the joy, the challenges, and the rewards that are in a similar mindset. So that's what I'm taking away from it. Thank you all.
Thank you all.
Thank you. And that's mine, the commonality, the thread that seems to run through. We may have different content, but there seems to be some real universal truths that run through all of our stories.
Yeah.
And that's nice to have that commonality and affirmation.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like I still have some aging to do to catch up to some of you, in terms of the letting go of, but I'm going to hold on.
There's no right way to do this, by the way.
Oh, thanks.
Other takeaways.
I had a very close friend who died in October, or September, October. And he showed up in a dream and said, "Oh, this is so great. You can get so much, you can do a lot of different things at once." So I appreciated that. And I appreciate this discussion so much. It's so, I don't know, comforting to see you all again and see how well you've aged.
It's liberating too, isn't it? To feel like everything you think and you feel about this isn't crazy, but it's part of the time, part of the unfolding of this consciousness. And it makes me feel very grateful to everybody for sharing this common experience and finding that it is very common and that we're all together as friends in this journey. So we're not alone.
I'd really like to thank Joan for referring to a class that she took on listening to the others, the non-human ones. And I'd like her to email me and tell me the name of that class.
Okay. Me too. Yeah. I'll just say that I'm very happy to meet this community. I feel like I'm in the right place, and I want to get to know everybody more. And this is the conversation I want to be having. So just gratitude.
Thank you. Gratitude.
I'm very thankful. Well, outline with the group, but thank you for welcoming us as an aging. Appreciate it very much.
Yeah.
Any other thoughts since we wrap things up? Was there any question we didn't ask that we should have asked? Is there something that's burning inside you?
I want to just say something that came up in the last time is that something I'm trying to understand is that I'm not going to be here for the end of the story. My story, I have my story, you know, I see it all happening through my life, and my lenses and awareness, but I'm going to die before the story's over. And I think that's fascinating. I just to feel my life as being the primary thing that I'm noticing right now, my awareness, because I'm in it. I can't not be, because even if I interpret other things, it's through me. So just then know that it's all going to go on without me. It's I don't know. It's just it's fascinating to me. If that makes sense. You
How does that feel? Is that liberating?
Ecological process before I leave, and Christian spirituality will not have taken over the world by the time I die. Things like that.
Uh-huh. Is that liberating or sad or what?
Well, it's humbling in a very liberating way. Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And it makes me appreciate everybody else's story and how we're all woven together.
Mm-hmm.
And the weaving of it, and how different strands come in at different time and leave at different time.
Yeah, every story is sacred and every story is true. Mm-hmm.
But I also feel hopeful from this conversation about the consciousness and the awareness and the spiritual, the mysticism that people are experiencing as far as we're bringing something very important. Now, John, you've taught me to think about this, you know, the power, the potency of having woke elders, to use the kids' term, is very edifying, and it brings me hope.
Yeah. Well, then maybe this is...
Well, I was just going to say one, and Jann brought it up about the graduation in 2001, and she talked about the campground. And it made me, and Jann and Penny and I are all the 2001 cohorts here. Yeah. And it made me think of something else Matt said, that I say to my clients a lot, and I just want to share it with you because it stuck with me. I'm a spiritual director now, and so I have clients, and they come from all faith traditions and on. But he said, and you know, Matt, he has to be very declarative, and you must. And he said, you must fall in love 3 times a day. And I don't know if Penny and Jann remember that, but I went, oh my God. So whenever I have a day of all about Alfie, why am I here? I just say, go out and fall in love 3 times a day. And it brings me back into awe and wonder. So
that's lovely.
I just wanted to leave that because that has stuck with me. And my clients write it down, and they'll come back in a month and go, love so many times. So I thank Matt for that, as I thank you, CS, for a lot of things.
So David White, the poet, has a lovely, very short little poem. It just came to mind, and he says, enough. These few words are enough. If not these words, this breath. If not this breath, this sitting here, opening to the life that we have refused again and again until now. Until now. So blessings on all of you. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you, John. Thank you.
We'll see you the next time.
Thank you, John, for wonderful questions. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Goodbye.
Joan emailed me.
What?